Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Mai-Coh, the official spelunker and paleontologist for the Midnight Society, has once again found her way through the darkness and into the fox den to awaken me from my slumber for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yeah, I really do need to feed. Absolutely delicious. I do appreciate you bringing me nutrients, Mai-Coh, so that, yes, I can completely replenish myself and my lost power sources as we once again take a walk into the madness known as the Dogman.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yes, we do have one of my good friends who helps me with a ton of my art. So make sure in every video and even the description you see on my page, you are able to access Mai-Coh's Etsy store. Okay, so if you do need custom art, hoodies, anything that you can think of, well, guess what? She helps me with, no exaggeration, probably at the moment a good 90% of the amazing visuals you see, considering I legit only have time at the moment to edit and just get all my content up to where it needs to be. Besides that, though, I have just been, I wouldn't say overloaded, but I would not have had the time to churn out some epic art at the moment. That's for sure. I would have been diving back into some of the good old files I've already created. Well, luckily for me, one of my scientists and good friends just churns it out, and she's already waiting around the fire as we again churn it into the early hours of the morning. Mai-Coh, my friend, how the heck are you?
Well, hello, Starfox. I am doing very well. I am glad to be here with you around the fire tonight. I'm very excited to talk with you about some really exciting things and some new developments that you have helped break into the cryptid sphere.
Wow, huge kudos right there coming from, well, I consider you a legend. Thank you for the support and the kind words. I have just been doing a ton of different things, trying to keep caught up a little bit on the Midnight Lycanthropy. Been working on Camp Nightmare Fuel with my co-host and sidekick Barb Hartman, and also Mr. Barber, aka Bigfoot's Barbershop. Working on an episode right now where I don't even know, maybe 26 more minutes left to do on that. I've also been working with a great friend of mine, as well as a few of her sidekicks, trying to help get some information out with the good old LBL. I've been working with my friend Richard and Diana from Ohio, and they've been having a ton of creepy things going on down there as well. I'm at the point where this is so fascinating. Besides that, though, trying to watch a little bit of hockey when I can, and I am completely done with True Blood except for the last 25 minutes of season 7, episode 10. I can't get through it because I already know what happens, and they did my favorite character super dirty. I'm one of those people that, well, of course, I hit the good old Google button and I ask, hey, what happens to Bill Compton in True Blood? Yeah, I didn't like that.
Oh, miserable. I'm so sorry. I hate it when that kind of thing happens. Like the show is so good, and then like they do something terrible to your favorite character. Like at the very end, it's like no,
You're like, what the heck?
it's so terrible. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
So funny though. What have you been up to?
Man, I've been covered up in my therapy practice. Anyway, my therapy practice has been just exploding. I've been back at work. I was at home with kids for a few years, and I've been back like at work now for over a year now, and it was a little slow going at first, but now like I'm just covered up. And it's a good problem to have. Honestly, it's a really
Mhm.
good problem to have. But then in my free time when I can, or if I'm sitting around waiting for something, I still do. I still spend about 15 hours a week driving. I can't do anything on driving, but I might listen to stuff like Midnight Lycanthropy. Or if I'm just sitting in a pickup line for kids and stuff, I might do some stuff, do some art stuff still. So I spend a lot of time driving. I've been spending as much time working as I can, and spend time, dealing with the kiddos and stuff, and fitting art in wherever I can in that, because it feeds my soul. You got to do that. I'm here being a mental health professional, and I have to also take care of myself. So, yeah.
Yes, this is truthful right there. Preach, my friend. It is always important to do things you enjoy. Obviously, I enjoy all my content. I do not enjoy editing. I don't think I've ever met anybody that enjoys editing, right? We enjoy the
Nope.
outcomes. Yet the part
Yeah.
where you're piecing it all together is no fun. Honestly, that's what really ruined for me wanting to continue being an actor. Obviously, I've talked about it before. I didn't like who I was around. Long story short is once you realize what goes into it and everything is just like strings and only a half side of a house, it's not fun anymore because I'm so creative when I see things like Jurassic Park and such, right? I want to think that
Yeah.
literally that's what the whole entire set looks like,
Right.
but it doesn't.
A lot of grindy, boring stuff. No, I hear you. It makes sense. All right. All right. So tonight I am thinking I'm going to bring some thoughts on the recent Dogwoman thermal footage from The Land Between the Lakes. I know you helped
Yes.
break that news. Yes. Yes. Blue Eyed Northern did an amazing job with that. That was an amazing interview. There was so much to pull out of there. I really would like to specifically look at it through like a biological and behavioral lens. Um, I'm sure there is more to be pulled out of it, but I would like to start because it's exciting. Like what patterns might we find here? What can we see? Like, what are some things this could confirm? Or, like what's some informed speculation we could make? Because this is new data. Like all of this is super new. There are so few. I think you mentioned in your interview, like you have maybe about like 10 dog woman sightings on file,
Mhm.
confirmed female on there. There's not that many. So this is kind of rare in that aspect. And then with young, like again, super uncommon. This could tell us so much about these creatures, though. So I am super excited. I've been really fascinated rewatching the footage and just listening to that interview again. And I think I have some insights to share that might be worth thinking about.
Beautiful stuff right here. I love it. Do me a favor as well before we start diving into that. Would you like to just tell the audience a little bit of what you do? I have mentioned you numerous times, but yes, I mean, you are part of my science team. So give yourself a good old plug here.
All right. Yeah, I'm Mai-Coh, and I do the science. I do stuff with the science team. I am a caver. In my free time, it's a fairly serious hobby though. Like I've done caving like on science trips, with actual people who are like taking samples, stuff like that. I've gone into some really cool gates, like with the official caretakers, like to check the gates. Like sometimes caves that have extremely delicate, fragile, like ecological things, like endangered bats that are very vulnerable. Or like archaeological stuff, like prehistoric human footprints, artifacts, that kind of thing, artwork. If the cave starts getting vandalized, they'll put a gate on it. So I've been able to get into some very very cool caves that you can't just walk into. They're not tour caves, wild stuff. I love it. So, of course, I'm fascinated by cryptids and stuff as well. Even though I'm a mental health professional by trade, like I'm so into this. It's so cool. And I love looking at like the cryptid stuff from like a biological perspective. And like, of course, I'm definitely not discounting the supernatural elements as well. It's just not my specialty per se. um, it's all exciting.
Let's go right there. I love it.
All
Absolutely
right.
epic.
All right. Oh, I do a lot of stuff with prehistoric, like paleo art. I do like I like to do reconstructions like as realistic as possible. Like I'll draw like every hair, like super realistic reconstructions of extinct things. And I feel like this, of course, you've addressed this on your channel quite a bit. Some of the prehistoric stuff can maybe tie in because like the past is what brought us to the present. So anyway, I'm excited.
Yep.
Let's get rolling on this. Yeah.
Let's do it.
So yeah, so the more I was watching this, the more I was thinking, okay, like footage like this, it kind of raises more questions than answers in a way, but like in a really intriguing way. Of course, I'm not here to be like, I have nothing to prove here, right? And I think it speaks for itself. Um, First of all, like the fact that it's video thermal footage, um, the video, and there's so much of it too. This isn't like a 20-second clip. They had like there's like 16 minutes of footage or something crazy like that. I mean, they stood there for a long time, and this creature stood there for a long time, like hiding from them. And they were, the thermal footage too, like okay, yeah, it's not like full, like HD color, like vibrant, like you can see every tiny detail, but it tells you some things, and it tells you some things that regular visible light footage actually might not tell you, and I'll get into that too. Like it makes some things pretty clear. Anyway, it's super exciting. It's definitely like, and again, I also think it just adds to the veracity of it. Like it's such a long encounter, and it's so fully documented. It's really hard to debunk it. Like there's nothing like what else could it be? It's definitely not a person. It's definitely not any known animal. And it's just there, okay? And you can see like the little movements, little behaviors, like just the mannerisms, the covering the face with the hand or the hand paw or whatever you want to call it. The details, like this dog woman, she has this mane, this ruff of hair, kind of like a lion mane, around her neck, which is super interesting. And it does remind me of one I think Daryl Denton saw like a different time. He also said it kind of had a mane like a lion, but it wasn't like a dog woman. It was just a different one from a different time. But that was also in the LBL. So it's like, that's interesting. Anyway, there's so much that can be drawn out of this, and the observations too of blue-eyed northern like make it really like that's also super powerful. Like she was there, she was listening, she could hear what was going on, she could see even better than what was broadcasted and like screen recorded on the phones, like what was going on the thermal, and like she could see this creature like looking, like when somebody, like when he got out of the vehicle to like try to go towards it before he got bogged down in the mud, it's like nope, but like it looks at him like it's doing stuff, it's not just standing there. And she could see that, and also I think it's really important, like her feelings about it and like her observations, like and bless her, she is so, I appreciate her perspective where she's not hardline about anything. She's not like it's definitely this, it's definitely that, like she seems so secure and so chill. She is not trying to prove anything. She just wants to share this, like just in case it could help somebody. I just think that's very admirable. But the way that her feelings and experiences through it actually I think add to the data in a way. She wasn't feeling like really freaked out and scared. She didn't feel like this thing was being aggressive towards her. She makes a very good observation that the dog woman, this creature could have left. It had an easy out, but didn't leave. Just stood there, but didn't make any aggressive moves either. And it makes you wonder why, like speculation, like curious, maybe, I don't know. Oh man, there's just so much to be pulled out of it. Anyway, the quality just of the footage for thermal is really good. For what it is excellent. And they had other thermals running, like she mentioned, but that one turned out the best. And yeah, I can definitely see it. And watching a still from it doesn't do it justice. You've got to see it because you can see the way she moves around. It's very interesting. So let's get into like some of the stuff that's observed. That this is kind of new stuff. Like we're talking about, Dogman, wolf people, dog woman, like this whatever this species, this cryptid. Like, what are some things we can maybe learn from it? Okay, first of all, we're seeing the object that she's holding sort of low on her hip. Um, you know, I think it's pretty obvious that it's not like prey, for two reasons. One, like Blue-Eyed Northern mentioned, the way she was holding it was like supportive. You can see like with care, she's trying to she's kind of holding it gently, supportively, not just carelessly. The second thing is this is thermal, and that thing is white hot. That thing is alive and it is warm. So that's like to me the most obvious thing. This is probably young. This is probably a pup. This is her child, however you want to put it. And she's holding it, and that's really cool. So yeah, it's white hot, it's alive, it's held intentionally, which is like she's careful, caregiving. It's very it's very relatable. holding the kid on your hip while you're standing around, like what else do you do? You can see her kind of shift her stance, maybe she's adjusting her support, or you can see there's times when she covers her face too, right? Like with her hand, like she doesn't but she's still there with her baby this whole time and just kind of holding on to it, right? And someone else mentioned there was a moment where it looked like maybe it got down and tried to get away, and she scoops it back up and she's holding it, and I'm like, well, that's relatable. Anyone who's had a toddler, they don't do well standing around for a long time. Anyway, it's the way she's holding is just very like she's holding something alive, and my hypothesis is that this is probably her pup, if you want to call it a pup, her child, her offspring. So her lower, the only thing that at first it kind of bothered me, I didn't understand it. It seemed like she was carrying it really low. I'm thinking about holding my child on my hip, and they're kind of up here, so they're closer to my chest, I guess. But then I realized, okay, I am looking at this from a completely human bias. My anatomy is different than hers. Okay. And you can see humans, we are weird among the animal kingdom. We're half leg. Okay. Our hips are really high. Our legs are long, and we're very rigid and kind of vertical. We don't have the, the gently bent legs like a lot of them have. So in her, if she has a digitigrade stance, her hip shelf is going to be lower, in relation to her head and her chest than you might see on a human being. So that actually makes sense why it would look like it's kind of riding lower than it would on a human. It's not on her waist, and for humans it's the waist and the hips are pretty close together, but it's on her, her hips are kind of lower, and so that baby's right there. Also, if she has a tail, that that might be a factor too. The other thing about how this baby is riding, okay, baby monkeys, baby possums, raccoons, I don't know, all these different creatures, the baby can cling to the parent, right? I'm especially thinking of possums or primates, and whatever this who knows how old this baby is, but it seems to be helping. It seems to be clinging onto her, right? She's not having to hold onto it with both arms and it's just floppy like a little baby potato, like a newborn. It's not a neonate. It's actually, involved in the holding part. It is participating, which makes me think this is a slightly older baby. It's not, it's not a teenager, but it's not a newborn. And I think, so from that, we can speculate a little bit about some of their seasonal stuff. Okay, it was early spring. It was March 15 when this sighting happened. The leaves were just starting to come out on the trees. It had just, winter was just barely over. So I'm thinking that's not a baby that was born this year in 2025, unless they grow obscenely fast. That's probably, that baby was probably not born in 2025. It's probably at least from last year. It's because it's showing the behavior of being able to kind of hold itself up. And of course, I don't know. We're just speculating here. I don't know how much head control these things have, or how able they are to to climb from birth. I mean, some some species, like they can climb and hold on almost from the very moment they're born. So perhaps I shouldn't assume, but it does seem to be like a fairly active participant in the holding. It doesn't seem like it was just barely born. Let's see here. But yeah, not a newborn, actively clinging. And it doesn't, yeah, it implies some neuromuscular development. Again, though, with no idea of their timelines, like, you know, we don't really know how old it is because we don't even know. Like, there's two different possibilities among many. It could be that they have life timelines like ours, where it's like, you know, the baby is born and then it takes years and years and years to be somewhat self-sufficient and, you know, stays with the parents a super long time and to grow to full size and all that brain development stuff. It's a human thing, and it seems like Sasquatch, like from what people indicate, it does seem like they are very similar to us. You know, they have babies that are babies for a good while, and you know, then they're kids for a good while, and they're adolescents for a good while. Whereas like wild, you know, like a regular known animal like a bobcat or a coyote or a wolf, like they might have pups like every year, every other year, maybe. You know, they like the babies are born like late winter, early spring, and they grow fast. Like by the time the year is over, they are like full adult size. And oftentimes they might be adult size, but they're still learning from their parents for like maybe another year. But we're not talking years and years of development. They get to full size really fast. So that's in contrast. And, you know, we don't know what their life cycle is like. You know, her carrying her baby around and her intelligent seeming behavior, yeah, it just has a lot of like parallels to like primate type behavior, like slower, like the slower growth, maybe the fact that she's carrying it around, which is really interesting because we don't know, you know, are these actually canines? Do they just look that way? Like, I don't know, but something that's upright, something that has hands, like, you know, it has hands. Like, why wouldn't you carry your babies around, right? Like, it makes sense. Here's another interesting point. Um, and this isn't so visible in the footage, but she mentions when they were leaving, she says you could see more than one pair of legs, like there were more of these creatures out there in the woods, like sort of escorting them out of the area, which is very interesting. That tells us a little bit more. You know, there's so many different Dogman like witness stories, right? And a lot of times it seems like it's one creature acting alone. A lot of other times it seems like there's maybe at least a pair. You know, I don't know if these things are in huge packs, but it does seem like there was a few other creatures, like, you know, one or two other ones. So that does seem to support like social behavior, family, at least family units, like small, you know, at least a small pack, like a group. Um, like, you know, she wasn't out there by herself. She wasn't, and that might be one reason, you know, she was like hiding, right? But she wasn't running away. Why would she be scared? Like, you know, she knows she's protected. If she's got, you know, she's got her big burly mate over there, you know, even further out of view, but right there, like she's got nothing to be scared of. And she probably knows that. And of course, they're out in the middle of the boondocks. It sounds like it takes a really long time to get that deep into the wilderness part of the LBL. You know, I didn't catch exactly what part it was in. It's probably good to not say exactly what part it's in. I mean, we don't want everyone to come swarming out there and bothering them, or, you know, getting in trouble with, you know, a more surly one. um, but yeah, like this is out, you know, this is way out there. Like this is like they mentioned they couldn't even, because the storms after like before and after the study, but especially afterwards, were so bad. There was a lot of trees down. They couldn't even get out there for a while till it had been like another month to come like do some reconnaissance, like check, okay, this is where it happened. This is kind of what was going on, like just to look at the spot again. It took a while because it was so bad, but it was really far out there. So they probably, you know, they probably know, like I'm sure they would see humans on the regular if it's like their territory, but not all the time. They're not by a main road. You know, they're not by any of the main highways where there's gonna be people zipping by all the time, or where everyone's always going, you know, favorite fishing spot that everyone's always at or whatever. They're kind of out there. So that is interesting. Also, like this the sort of escorting behavior, that's a very common theme we see in like more than one kind of cryptid story. Like both like Bigfoot and Dogman, like they will often escort people out of the area. Like they'll sort of, but by escort, you know, I mean they'll sort of parallel them. Like if you're walking, or in this case, even though they were driving, it's not like they were driving super fast though. You're kind of walking alongside, just making sure they got out of the area. And like it's, to me, it's like it's watchful behavior. It's cautious behavior. And it seems like, at most they're just letting you know that they're there. If they, it's like, that I know that, that we both know that we're here. But they're like, it's not super aggressive. It's not scary. It's not an attack. They're not saying, I am going to unalive you. Rawr. Like, no, they're just making sure that you make it on out of their turf so they can be safe back in their own little living room, because it's kind of like we come into their house in a way, which sometimes I wonder if that's kind of why sometimes people get followed home, inadvertently, like they end up in their territory. So it's like, okay, so maybe the creature, the Dogman, is like, okay, you came into my house, I'm following you to your house now. I don't know. They do seem like a little bit more, I don't want to say spiteful. Sometimes it seems like they're a little bit spiteful compared to like Sasquatch, which like seems like the Sasquatch are more likely to like prank you. But like any of them will scare the crud out of you happily, it seems like, but they don't always. And this is a good example. Like, not like everyone talks about, oh my goodness, Dogman, like I actually listened to something recently and I was like, oh, they're all evil, they're demonic. I'm like, I'm listening to that, I'm thinking like, okay, so like that demonic to me implies supernatural. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, whatever. Like now, like we have like a family of creatures living out in the woods. There's a baby there. The mother, you can see her visible mammary like shape out there. Like, she's a mammal. They are very different from us, but in some ways, like, I can't help but see her out there. And I'm like, you know what? I can kind of relate to you. um, like, how is that evil? Like, she didn't do anything. She didn't do anything scary. Like, anyway, not all of the encounters are horrifying and aggressive. And if anything, I think it also speaks to, at least with the females, I know you've mentioned before too, like maybe the male and female, like, of this kind of creature, this kind of cryptid, maybe they have pretty different temperaments. And, I wouldn't be surprised. But like, okay, you think about like the one time a female is going to become aggressive, and I'm talking humans, I'm talking any kind of mammal, actually. It's like when you threaten the baby and the mama's there. They don't say mama bear for nothing. That's the one time a female, anything, I know I would do anything with my bare hands, to protect my own children. Like, I have no qualms, zero issue. I would do whatever it takes. And I know my fellow mammal mothers probably feel the same. Yeah. And so she was here with a baby, and there are these humans nearby. She still wasn't aggressive. Of course, they weren't coming between her and her baby by any means. They were just there. But I do think that speaks to like, her attitude was not some horrifying, scary monster thing. Like, she's just there. She might have been curious. I don't know. I'm not inside her head. I do wish her well. Like, oh, out there with a baby. I hope she's doing okay, It's hard enough raising kids in a house. I can't imagine doing it in the woods. But yeah. So like, her behavior says a lot. And the fact that even that, she's a mother here with a baby of some sort, apparently, and she's not acting super aggressive, I think that's like, I'm sure, like, I know there are ones that are highly aggressive, dangerous, horrifying, not going to question that. But also, it's like, this makes me think they're not all that way. She's just out there doing her thing, just trying to have her little family. But yeah, and she has a family out there too. Like, she had, maybe a mate, maybe friends, maybe whatever. There were other ones out there. She wasn't scared, and for good reason. I wouldn't be scared either if something like that was guarding me. Oh, nope. She's covered. And of course, it sounds like she was big too. Like, she wasn't like, 4 feet tall. No, they said that she seemed pretty massive. Like, the height that I don't think they said exact height that she would have been, but she was not small. She probably had nothing to worry about. She probably could have taken care of herself if she needed to. Really interesting though. It's just amazing looking at the footage. You can just see like the way she's standing. You can see her ears. You can see her little face. You can see her rather nice mane of fur. Like, she's taking care of herself. She was out in the woods, but she's fluffy and she's not bedraggled from what you can tell. Like, that's pretty impressive. It's pretty cool. And it's very cool that we can see that. This is such a huge deal. And it's very interesting too. The Blue-Eyed Northern said that people have come to her already and said like, hey, this parallels like what I saw. This looks like what I saw. It's kind of cool. I know they don't all look the same, but it's kind of cool that there's some overlap there. The other thing too, something that implies intelligence about her behavior is that, she kept covering her face. Like with her paw, her hand. I don't want to call it a paw because described as like hands, like with like kind of like long fur on them or something. Like she had hands and she's like covering her face. That makes me think she knows. Okay, obviously she was aware. Like everyone's looking at her. She's being watched somehow, and she's hiding behind bushes. Like she's made moves to hide, and it's dark, but obviously they see her somehow. And with a heat camera, it's not the same as like some of the other stuff. Like, it's not visible light, it's not like infrared. It's like, I don't know. It's like they're picking up on her heat. So I don't know if she was aware of how they were seeing her at all, but the fact that she's covering her face makes me think like she knows that humans have cameras and she knows that she needs to avoid that. Like she's not shielding her whole body. She's not crumpling down, but she's covering her face in particular. It's like she knows that we're good at spotting faces, perhaps. I thought that was really interesting. And she's kind of shy. She's not stepping out in the open like, here, look at me, here's my baby, but she's hiding, but she's just there. Yeah, can you imagine? Oh my word. I don't know. It might have been actually terrifying if she did that. Imagine this like 7-foot tall dog woman or whatever, however tall she is, steps out. Oh my goodness. Yeah, been horrifying, actually. But no, she was just there. But yeah, she's aware that she's being observed. This is, and of course, even like a wild animal, will eventually sometimes be aware that it's observed, but like not like that, not like covering its face. That's pretty intelligent behavior. She's aware of gaze, and she's like trying to interrupt that gaze. I thought that was just really interesting. Here's another cool thing. Wildlife. They mentioned the wildlife were highly active after a storm. Like they saw pigs, they saw deer, they saw coyotes, they saw all these creatures on the way in. And these creatures, Dogman, the Dogwoman, like this family of wolf people, they were out too. Like, the storm had just come through, and another one was coming. They may have been aware of that. They were out there with that same urgency as the other animals, maybe some excitement, like, we got to eat, we're hungry, like some, everyone's out there hunting. Everyone's like, storms have washed stuff away. I'm sure any scent markers in their territory have been washed away. They're out there. They're busy. They're busy in that quiet window between storms. And it shows me, again, they're following biological patterns like the other animals, but like on a different level with intelligence. And again, that tells me there may be supernatural stuff going on too, also, but like there is a biological component here as far as my opinion is. Like she's not some ghost floating around like they have needs. They're apparently out there dealing with stuff just like the other animals after the storm. So like looking at the North American Dogman Project website, it's so cool how in the data you can see patterns. Like the sightings are mostly in the summer and the fall, right? And it's interesting, like similar looking at like Bigfoot sighting data. Again, like summer and fall are when you see them the most. So if like parsing that data down, it's like very interesting. Also, this would be interesting to find out with Dogman stuff. You'd have to be pretty specific with how you get that out with the dates that things were seen, but also Bigfoot show like a spike in sightings around the new moon and around the full moon, and with a little bit less in between where it's in between, which is really interesting because that also follows like apex predator patterns as well. Like full moon, they can see really well. They're out like, hunting, and then new moon, like it's super dark, but they're still out hunting extra. I know there are reasons for it. I don't know the why and the how exactly that well. I just know that is a known observed pattern in other apex predators. It's interesting that Bigfoot sightings happen to follow that. To me, like, there's no way people are gonna like think, oh, it's a new moon, I should report a Bigfoot sighting that I made up out of nowhere. Like, this is something that speaks to like the veracity of stuff being a thing. There's just so much data that you can pull out, statistically significant data. That's about it for like the stuff I wanted to observe. But just to kind of like to bring it all together, like I don't usually get floored by footage. I mean, you are not wrong when you're like, this is a big deal. This kind of footage is a huge deal. Similar like the Dogman version of Patty, basically. And yeah, it's not full color in the sun, but like because it was thermal, like unlike maybe a blurry visible light thing where you see her just carrying something or whatever, you could see that what she was carrying was white hot, just like her. It was alive. It was warm. So the thermal footage has a lot of value here, actually. And that's how they were able to spot her to begin with, like off in the dark, like through bushes and stuff. Like she was glowing with heat. She's warm, a warm-blooded mammal, and so is her baby. Like, ultimately, of course, like footage doesn't necessarily give hard proof, I guess. Like, for someone who's super like, nope, this can't exist, no amount of footage or evidence is going to be enough. And then, some people just accept anything, and then anything is good enough. And it's like, I think a good middle ground is good. Like, let's evaluate this. Let's evaluate the quality of something. And it's my opinion, this is high quality. There is probably more that we could get out of this footage that, I'm not even like qualified to like, or, I haven't thought of, or like, I haven't noticed. But those are some basic observations that I think, it tells us a lot. Like it's very cool. We're looking at patterns that suggest high intelligence, that suggest strong social bonds. And just as a mother, I found that kind of that shift, the way she was supporting her young, like I kind of found that moving. Like we're so different, and she would probably not like to meet me, but I'm also like, girl, I get it. Like good for you out there. Like keeping track of that baby out in the woods. Like, yeah, you got your hands full. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, that's what makes all this work, this looking at crypto stuff. This makes it so fascinating. I'm so glad you were able to help that team, like get their footage out there, get it stabilized. Like, the people who are boots on the ground doing all that research, sometimes they're like super techie and they can do all that stuff. And sometimes they're really not. And they might have amazing footage. And like, if if they weren't like, if you hadn't given them that extra little nudge and that like, okay, let's get you out here. Let's get this out here. Let's put you, let's tell your story. Like it might not have gotten out. And so I'm just so glad like that they were willing to share and that they came to you and that they were able to get their footage posted, because wow, like what a wealth of information. I think we're just scratching the surface. Like this is data, and the more we get, the more it will tell us. And I think that's awesome. It's super exciting. Like it invites us to be both like skeptical, but like, fascinated and maybe even a little bit open-hearted, like at the same time. I don't know. I just love it. I'm so glad that footage is out there. It's very cool.
Such great stuff right there. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less. You are part of my science team and my squad for a reason. You touched on so many things that I potentially was going to bring up for you.
Twins.
Right? We do got to let you go. Yes, to the audience, Mai-Coh is very busy. But before we do let her go, I will touch on some of those bulletin points real quick. And as you had mentioned, yeah, it's like Nooksium, aka Brother Nature, many others. Even Jody has a really hard time. The other night, he calls me at like 12:30. I'm like, yo, what the heck, dude? Like, this is way past your bedtime, bro. You're usually in bed by like 8:30, because I'm good friends with him and I'm friends with his wife too. I've met her and him before. So I definitely know, because she told me, she's like, yeah, he's in bed at 8:30, fighting off all the bad guys. He's up, and I'm like, dude, what the heck? Got it figured out for him. But also, it's the comparison I like to use is the analytic nerds in football, right? Upstairs, hey, are you going to go for it on fourth down here? Well, if you do it 100 times, we probably got a 78% chance right now that you're going to get this. All right. So like my buddy Drewski, he's former SWAT and stuff. He goes, yeah, you're like my intel guy. He always hits me up when he's going to go to certain locations. Super important either way, because your intel guys are the ones that are pointing you in the right direction. Like if you got to get out of a place or something. So yeah, it's all one and the same, which is excellent. A couple key points too that you touched base on. Yeah, she closes her eyes and basically shuts off the eye shine at points in time. It's so gnarly, because that is something a lot of people call like the goggle effect, meaning Bigfoot apparently do it too when they're being noticed. Yeah, creepy stuff. But also any predators can, meaning like a leopard seal. All right, they hunt at very deep parts of the ocean as well. So they have bioluminescence that are inside of their eyes. So same thing, they're shutting it on and off more or less too. But that was very
Don't they have
interesting.
like a third eyelid basically? So the
Yes.
the reflective membrane they have, it can when that third eyelid is covering their eye, then it's not shining so much. But
So
they can
that
still
was
see
super
kind of.
great. And then when you touch
Yeah.
base too on when the little one was running away, that was a really great reference point that my friend Mr. Barber and Barb Hartman, both my hosts, had pointed out when they had
Awesome.
first watched it. They're like, dude, it's almost like she's like, hey, what the heck? What are you doing over here? And like grabs her and pulls
Wrangling
her
that
back,
thing.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what's so
Get
cool
it.
about that? There was a man that was driving with his windows down because it was really nice out, and near the tall grass, he heard rustling, started to slow down just to see what it was because he obviously figured it was an animal. Well, to his amazement, there was a dog woman, like he said, that walked out in the middle of the road, looked at him. He stopped his car. She turned her
So
head back,
cool.
and then basically a group of little puppies came running out, little versions of her, and they were nipping at
my
each other and acting like little babies would. And then they ran off, and then she just casually walked off into the dense forest. Again,
Incredible.
right? This is now 2 female dogman encounters from the
Yeah.
LBL. So it's really
Wow.
great stuff.
They're having babies, yeah. And
Man,
the females
it's so
seem pretty chill.
also, my squirrel covers her face sometimes too. Like when she gets like, I would say, I don't even know, flustered or embarrassed. I don't know. I think she thinks she's a human now. Yes, it's so interesting and such a game changer when you're able to witness something interact with the world with hands. All right.
Yeah.
It brings a whole new level, meaning, yeah, sure, things with paws and are cool, but yet when you watch something like a squirrel, they can just literally interact with the world on a whole different level. And it just opens
so
up
cool.
so much more. So not saying a squirrel's smarter than anything else, but yet it shows you how much more they can do, like with raccoons opening doors and
Right.
stuff. So
They
really
can manipulate stuff.
great.
Like a
So
pig is
cool.
super smart, but the poor thing's just got hooves. All it's got to work with is its mouth. So what it
Yes.
can do is not as much as what is like a little squirrel can do, tiny little brain, but it has
So
hands.
cool,
It
right?
can
And
use its intelligence. Yeah.
this new little baby squirrel, as we are wrapping this up right here, that's been hanging out. He's figured out to scratch on the screen door outside on the bottom. You hear a little scratch, scratch, and then he's sitting there looking out for the peanut. So, I mean, right there, he has put together the understanding of, hey, well, this guy's got a squirrel that's his, and all these other squirrels come over and chill. How are they getting in there? And then he scratches the door and I answer. And it's just cool because that's basically a form of evolution that you're witnessing in front of you.
It's learning, it's changing. That's so neat. Like, yeah, that's so cool. That is so
It
cool.
is.
Yeah, your squirrel is, you never, who would have thought that like squirrels could actually like inform you that much even about like cryptids, but like the hand thing is kind of a big deal.
So cool.
So cool. Anyway,
Well,
I'm
is there
so
anything else
excited.
you would
So
like to touch base on tonight, my friend?
I think we hit everything I was planning on talking about. Thank you so much. It was really fun to sit around the fire with you and talk about this amazing footage.
Yes. Well, we will definitely get you on back here very soon when you get some more time. And thank you for hanging out.
Yay, thank you.
Ooh, you legends, you, my creatures of the night. I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for hanging out tonight. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the facts to the algorithm. And remember, there are things that go bump in the night. Keep your head on a swivel, and we will see you very soon.